Welcome back to another episode of where I explain to you some Wikipedia articles or other articles, and I read it out loud and explain to you all the meanings of the words. This time we have a Wikipedia article about the Brezel in English, so the German Brezel, which is I think a German invention, I'm not sure, but we're gonna get into this. Leave a comment, leave a like if you want to, and let's get into it. Alright. Die Brezel ist ein salziges oder selten auch süßes Gebäck in Form eines symmetrisch verschlungenen Teigstrangs. Ihre Anfänge liegen im Mittelalter des deutschsprachigen Raums Deutschland, Elsass, Österreich, Schweiz und Südtirol. Der Name Brezel wird von der etymologischen Forschung vom lateinischen Brachium abgeleitet, Klammern, der Arm, mutmaßlich bezogen auf das Verschränken beider Unterarme vor dem Brustkorb. Die Brezel ist das am weitesten verbreitete Gebildbrot oder Bildergebäck. Seit dem Mittelalter wird die Brezel von der Bäckerzunft als Zunftzeichen und heute als Wahrzeichen von den Bäckerinnungen sowie den Bäckereien verwendet. Im Laufe der Jahrhunderte bildeten sich zunehmend mehr Varianten der Brezel in immer mehr Regionen und Ländern aus. Am meisten verbreitet sind die bayerische Brezen, die weitgehend gleicher Dicke, und die schwäbische Brezel mit einem dicken Bauch und zwei dünnen Armen. Alright, let's get into the first sentence. Die Brezel ist ein salziges oder selten auch süßes Gebäck in der Form eines symmetrisch verschlungenen Teigstrangs. So that means the pretzel is a salty or rarely also sweet, what do you call this? Baked thing. Let me just check. Gebäck. Pastry, yeah. That would be correct. In the form or shape, it's the same. Eines means of a, it's one in the genitive case, so of a. Symmetric, verschlungen. That would mean, that can either mean like eaten, kind of in a very, very hasty kind of way, or that can mean, in this case, where it's wrapped around, verschlungen. It's referring to those strings which are wrapped around each other, basically. So verschlungen, let me just translate that. Twisted, yeah, you could say twisted. That would, of course, have to be written in uppercase letter. Or intertwined, yeah, because that's a noun, of course. Yeah, so the pretzel is a salty, verschlungen, intertwined strand of dough, of course. The pretzel is a salty or rarely also sweet pastry in the form or in the shape of a symmetric, intertwined strand of dough, because it's, in general, it's the way you make it, it's you have one string of dough, you roll the ends kind of thinner. It can be this way, can be this way. I think it's kind of different depending on the region. Here it's Oberschwäbisch, which is, I think, somewhere in the east, in the southeast, but I'm not sure, so I'm not a geography expert in Germany, of course. That is a more Bavarian, bayerische Brezen, that's where you say that in Bavaria. So that is more in the Bavarian region common to kind of make it like this, with these string parts bigger and this maybe a little less voluminous, I guess you could say. But yeah, let's get into the second sentence. Or did I already say the first one? I think I did. So it's kind of just, yeah. The Brezel, or the pretzel, is a salty or rarely sweet pastry in form of a symmetric, intertwined string of dough. Or strand. Ihre Anfänge liegen im Mittelalter des deutschsprachigen Raums, in Klammern Deutschland, Elsass, Österreich, Schweiz und Südtirol. You don't necessarily need to say in Klammern, so in brackets, but I guess it's the same in English. You could just say im Mittelalter des deutschsprachigen Raums, Deutschland, Elsass, Österreich, Schweiz und Südtirol. But yeah, that's just a side note. So, let's get into it. Ihre Anfänge liegen im Mittelalter des deutschsprachigen Raums. It's, in this case, it's hers or her, because it's feminine. Die Anfänge, or treated like feminine because all plural forms become the kind of feminine form, but it's not feminine, but it's the plural, the they form basically, and that's the same as feminine because it's sie and ihre, but it's the plural form because it's the same as the feminine she form in German, except it's kind of written in uppercase, so it's a bit different, but yeah. Ihre Anfänge, so it's the plural. You could say their, kind of, but yeah. It's not definitely not translated to her, but in this case you would have to say, if you were to translate that in English into the correct form, its beginnings, or yeah, its beginnings, because it's relating to die Brezel. So I basically said some incorrect things. It's just relating to the pretzel. Never mind, don't listen to what I just said. So it's just relating to the pretzel because the pretzel is feminine, so her, kind of her, but it's not her because in English you say the, you just have it. In German it makes a difference, so its beginnings lie in the Middle Ages, so they started there, kind of. I guess you know what I mean if I say they lie in there, or lie in the, of course, im is in dem, in the Middle Ages, or medieval ages, des, of the, genitive case, in terms of masculine form, deutschsprachigen Raums, German speaking, Deutsch, of course, German, sprachig, sprachigen, that's kind of conjugated. I guess you don't necessarily say conjugated, but matched to this word Raum, Raums, genitive case, which just means room. So speaking, sprachigen, sprachig, just speaking, room, German speaking room, Deutschland, Germany, Elsass, which is a region in, I think, west of France, somewhere here in the Grand Est of France, I don't know, somewhere in the northwest, of course. I meant east. It's on the border to, I think, what's it called, Rheinland-Pfalz. I don't know what it is called in English, but it's, I think, somewhere in the southwest of Germany. Yeah. Elsass, Österreich, which is of course Austria, Schweiz, Switzerland, and Südtirol, which is a province, I don't know which way you say that in English, in the north of Italy. I think there is kind of a discussion if it's, I mean, officially it's Italian, but I think there is a discussion if it's Italian or Austrian, or because it wants to be kind of an own country for itself, but it's not, or not a country, but it wants to be, what's it called? Autonom. Let me just translate that. Yeah, autonomous. Wait, let me just autonomous. So there's kind of this discussion. I know it's kind of an excursion again, but because it's officially what's it called? Officially it's part of Italy, but there is a huge German-speaking community there, but it's kind of so related to Austria, but yeah. That's why it's part of the German-speaking list, kind of. because in the Elsass they also speak German, but it's kind of a different dialect or something, I don't know. So yeah, its beginnings lie in the medieval ages of the German-speaking Rome, I guess you could say, area, Germany, Elsass, Austria, Switzerland, and South Tyrol, I guess, Südtirol, Alright, next sentence. Der Name Brezel wird von der etymologischen Forschung vom lateinischen Brachium abgeleitet, in Klammern der Arm, mutmaßlich bezogen auf das Verschränken beider Unterarme vor dem Brustkorb. So that just means the name Brezel wird is always the supportive verb, so it's kind of becomes, but not becomes because you wouldn't say that in English, of the etymologic, let me just say that. Etymological. Yeah. The etymological science, Forschung, that's kind of what you do with science. So, science saying, of course, not that. What's it called? Research, yeah, you could say research. So, the etymologic research of the Lateinischen Brachium, I don't know, I think it's, in Germany you would say Brachium, abgeleitet, which just means derived, kind of. So the name Brezel wird abgeleitet, that is also the kind of passive form or the future form, but it's the same. So it's, you could say becoming derived, but it's not the way you would say that in English. So it's being derived or derives from the word brachium, according to the etymologic research, or the etymologic researchers derive it from the word brachium. Anyways, der Arm, which just means the arm. Am I stupid or is it called arm? I'm confused right now. Sorry. Yeah, why was I confusing that? I was just maybe a bit, confused. Mutmaßlich bezogen auf das Verschränken beider Unterarme vor dem Brustkorb. Mutmaßlich means supposedly, bezogen auf das Verschränken beider Unterarme vor dem Brustkorb. Supposedly, bezogen, in general, bezogen can mean a lot of different things. Bezogen can mean like a bed when you have a, sheet on it and you put on it and then it is bezogen. Or this basically just comes from the word pull, which just means ziehen, so you pull something out of something. In this case, probably onto because it's which refers to kind of doing something to something. This can also mean, in literary context, to etwas beziehen. Ich beziehe Geld, to kind of say I get money, like from some sort of an organization. Like if you say I get Hartz IV, which is kind of the supportive money if you don't have a job and you're like kind of poor, I would say. I don't know if that's kind of the right way to say it, but you say ich beziehe Hartz IV. But the way this is meant in this case is bezogen is just saying relates to, referring to. You could also kind of say deriving, but nah, not the right way. Rather relates to. So it's supposedly related to, bezogen auf das, to the verschränken, which means the crossing the arms. What's it called? Verschränken. I think it's kind of crossing. Interlock. Interesting. Interlock, like, I think you can see here where you are crossing, like, if it was kind of a picture of a human crossing the arms, that's what's it relating to. Relating to the crossing of both, beide, of both, beide just means both, Unterarme, which means lower arms. I don't know what's it called, Unterarm, I think there's a word for it. Forearm, yeah. Of both forearms in front of the chest. Let me just check, Brustkorb, which is kind of the rib cage. That's the way you say that. So the name Brezel is being derived of the etymologic research from the words brachium, I don't know, which just means the arm, or in brackets the arm, supposedly related to or referring to the word, to the crossing of both forearms in front of the ribcage. Alright, next sentence. Die Brezel ist das am weitesten verbreitete Gebetbrot oder Bildergebäck. So, just saying I don't even know what that is, so yeah. Die Brezel, die Brezel, ist das am weitesten verbreitete Gebetbrot oder Bildergebäck. Is the am weitesten is the superlative form, so the best, the biggest, the das am weitesten, so most widely spread, you could say. Gebetbrot, I don't even know what that says. Probably it's, I can guess, but in this case here it's written, Gemäldebrot ist ein Brot oder Gebäck in Form von figürlichen Darstellungen, wie beispielsweise Menschhase. Yeah, that's what I was guessing. I think it's kind of the same. We have a what's it called? A holiday, kind of, not a holiday, but a kind of special day, I guess you know what I mean. It's just called St. Martin, I guess, and where they eat I think it's commonly a rabbit, or no, it's a human, kind of made from dough. Let me just, Hefeteig, what's it called? Yeast dough, of course, yeah. Made from yeast dough with raisins as eyes, and I think like almonds as some sort of like buttons from the jacket or something. Kind of like snowman, but made of yeast dough, and they traditionally eat it here. I don't know if it's common in other countries. I don't know, in your country, depends on which country you're coming from, but it's a common thing, and I think that's kind of what's referring to, not necessarily this kind of holiday or free day, but referring to a pastry which is related or referring to a certain picture in this case, because Gebild just refers to the word picture. Gebild is kind of a derived form of a picture, can mean like anything, because Ge just says that it's some sort of related to the word picture, or to a picture in this case, and Brot just means bread, so it's kind of saying a picture, bread, or bread with a picture, something, so you can kind of guess it's some form of bread relating to a picture, and yeah. Oder Bildergebäck, which is probably kind of the same. Yeah, it's also the same article referring to, so I think there is a slight difference in some sort of that might be more like where you actually have kind of a picture as a, as a pastry, where you kind of try to make a picture with, I don't know, ingredients like fruit or something on top of some, I'm just guessing, I don't even know, but That might be the thing, because that is more relating to the word picture, and that might be a bit closer to kind of art, design, I don't know. And that is more relating to the bread, but yeah. Seit dem Mittelalter wird die Brezel von der Bäckerzunft als Zunftzeichen und heute als Wahrzeichen von den Bäckerinnungen sowie den Bäckereien verwendet. Did I already say that sentence in whole English? Yeah, the Brezel is the most famous, most widely spread picture, bread, whatever, kind of thing. So, seit dem Mittelalter wird die Brezel von der Bäckerzunft als Zunftzeichen und heute als Wahrzeichen von den Bäckerinnungen sowie den Bäckereien verwendet. So, since the medieval ages, Middle Ages, whatever you want to call it, wird verwendet is also the kind of passive form, so it's is being used. Wird die Brezel, the Brezel, von der Bäckerzunft of the baking, let me just say that. That's kind of referring to a group of working, of jobs, so a guild, I guess, yeah. I think there is a German word called Gilde, which is a very, very old word referring to the, I think it's kind of the same, but not the same, the the job groups in the medieval ages, but yeah. Von der Bäckerzunft, the baking guild, als Zunftzeichen, as a guild sign, I guess, kind of, because, there were kind of these, if you not click on this but show this, there were these kind of things, and I think the pretzels, I think even here, one of them, als Zunftzeichen und heute als Wahrzeichen, as a, what's it called, Wahrzeichen, of course, und heute als, and today as, Wahrzeichen. Let me just translate that. Landmark, yeah, kind of, but the thing is, in Germany, landmark, the way you would translate that and what it refers to, because Wahrzeichen is often kind of in terms of like the Statue of Liberty, or in this case here it's the big, I don't know what's called in English, that thing in Berlin, but in this case this just refers to something that is known for a certain other thing, like the pretzel for the baking guild, I guess. So it doesn't have to be a landmark, it's rather a, what's it called, I would call it a traditional sign, kind of, where you condition to seeing something in relation to something else, and it's like the color green in terms of nature, and und heute als Wahrzeichen, so as a kind of, in general it's translated to landmark, but traditional sign. This refers to by the way, basically to the word wahr, which means true, Zeichen, just sign, true sign. I don't know why it's kind of put together as this, because it doesn't really make sense, but it's just the way you say it in German. Von den Bäckerinnungen, I don't have a clue what that means. Innungen, that seems to be a pretty old word. Innung in Deutschland, die Interessenvertretung, so in interest, supportive, not company, but organization, I guess, kind of. Von Personen einer Berufssparte, die Inhaber eines Handwerksbetriebs sind. Oder Handwerkbetriebs. So it's kind of a probably rather local supportive group that supportive group is kind of the wrong way to put it, but support an organization which cares for the, or which is organizing the kind of guilds or job groups in terms of handcrafts, like baking. I don't even know if in English baking is a so-called handcraft, but in German it definitely is, or in Germany. Because in my opinion, it sounds, handcraft in English sounds more like working with wood. In Germany, in German you associate it more maybe with wood or something like that. But in general, I think it also includes things like baking or cooking, just anything where you use your hands, kind of. Yeah, so of the baking, I would call them supportive organizations, kind of local, not clubs, but there's always some sort of thing that is organizing all these whatever, I don't even know what. So of the baking whatevers, as well, sowie, as well as, or also, and you could also say the bakeries use. So since the Middle Ages, or medieval ages, the pretzel is being used by the baking guild as a guild sign, and today as a traditional sign or common sign of the bakery or baker organizations that care for them, as well as the bakeries. Im Laufe der Jahrhunderte bildeten sich zunehmend mehr Varianten der Brezel in immer mehr Regionen und Ländern aus. So, that would be translated word by word, in the run of, but just means with the passing of the centuries. Jahrhunderte just means centuries, so during the centuries, during the passing, kind of. Im Laufe just means passing in some sort of during the passing of the centuries. Bildeten, which just means they, you could say built up, but got made, got created. Bildeten sich zunehmend mehr Varianten der Brezel in immer mehr Regionen und Ländern aus. Bildeten sich aus? I mean, to be honest, this doesn't make sense. It's probably meaning breiteten sich aus, because derives from the word ausbreiten. I mean, you could say sich ausbilden, which just means kind of to form itself, to become something, but I think ausbreiten is rather more commonly said or used in this case, because it just means to spread, because it's referring to the region, to the local what's it called? To the locality, to where it is, But yeah, that's just my opinion. So during the passing of the centuries, I would say breiteten, but you could probably say bildeten, but it's just kind of weird to say that. Bildeten sich zunehmend. So I would say spreads themselves. You have to say in German to make that verb, kind of. Zunehmend, which is saying more and more. Zunehmend derives from the word zunehmen, a verb which just means to gain mass, also referring to gaining weight, but in general just gaining mass. Mehr Varianten, so more and more variants of the pretzel in immer mehr, in always more, but always just in this case. It's kind of a phrase, just immer mehr means more and more. Regions and countries, Regionen und Ländern aus. So they spread out to more and more countries and regions. The variants of the pretzel during the passing of the centuries. I don't even know if during the passing of the centuries is the right way to put it, but you get what I mean. Am meisten verbreitet sind die bayerische Brezen, so that's the word you say, as I already said, you use in Bavaria, mit weitgehend gleicher Dicke, und die schwäbische Brezel mit einem dicken Bauch und zwei dünnen Armen. So, am meisten verbreitet, as I already said, superlative form, am meisten, most, that also just means most, I mean, I guess you could also say am verbreitetsten, but that's kind of probably incorrect. So you'd say am meisten verbreitet. I mean, if you don't know what's the superlative form in German, just say am, because it can be either, in this case, for example, am verbreitetsten or am meisten verbreitet, but just use am meisten. Of course, like am meisten groß is kind of incorrect. You should know it's am größten, but you get what I mean, I guess. In general, with the less common adjectives, it's, I think, in most cases am meisten. Yeah, am meisten verbreitet, so the most common, or verbreitet, just means spread. So the most spread, kind of, the most, I think you could say the most common is rather the right way to put it in English, but this just means spread, are the Bavarian Brezen, sind die bayerische Brezen. So that's, the Bavarian word for Brezel. So the most common pretzel is the Bavarian Brezen, mit weitgehend gleicher Dicke, with weitgehend means, if you were to translate that word by word, wide going, but that just means in general it's it just relates to the word in general, kind of, with, or mostly you could say, mit weitgehend. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You say weitgehend and it refers to in general for a non-German speaker maybe, but this is just what it means, weitgehend. I mean, you could say it just relates to I go far, but it doesn't. It just says that something is in general, mostly, or in this case it just means in most kinds and most types of pretzels, probably. So most Brezel types have the same, in this case gleicher Dicke, same thickness, or what's it called, big, so the size, kind of, but it's referring to the not thickness in terms of consistency, but the just the size in general, the width of that, kind of. So in the where we were here. So the most commonly spread, or most common pretzels, are the Bavarian Brezen, with mostly the same size, or same width, thickness, whichever way you say that in English. Let me just translate that. Dicker, it's probably gonna say thickness. It isn't always correct, you know. Und die Schwäbische Brezel, and the, I don't know what that means. Schwäbisch, that is also a region. As I already said, I think in the beginning. Swabian, I don't freaking know. Und die Schwäbische Brezel, so it's a region in east, I think southeast, but correct me if I'm wrong. In Germany, Schwäbische Brezel mit einem dicken Bauch, so Swabian pretzel with a thick belly, what's the way you say it? Belly or tummy. In this case, it's just referring to that. That's kind of a literary expression to express that you mean this part of the pretzel, the kind of fats. I mean, not saying that everyone is fat, but you know, these the typically more enhanced region, not typically, but sometimes more enhanced region of a person, and translating that to that. So so the most common types, or the most spread types, are the, not types here, not types, the word types isn't written here, Arten, but most spread are the Bavarian Brezen, with mostly the same thickness. You wouldn't say but mostly same thickness. Weitgehend, remember that is not, as you say, word by word, wide going. I mean, you can kind of probably assume why it's this way, but it's not referring to the words going far or something. It's the same thickness, and the Swabian, I don't know, pretzel with a thick tummy but thick belly, but rather referring to this part, thick lower part, and two thin arms, zwei dünnen Armen und zwei dünnen Armen, which refers to these parts. Yeah, and I think that was it for today. If I forgot anything, might be possible. Write a comment if you want to, leave a like if you want to. Have you got anything else to say, any recommendation on which articles or whatever I should cover? Yeah, just write in the comments, and see you next time.